Well, last week we were waiting all week for the Springbok team news, and then this week Rassie Erasmus goes and names it right at the start of the week on a Monday. So welcome back. The first test between the Springboks and the All Blacks is in the rearview mirror. What a test match, by the way. A lot of fallout from that, and we are quickly looking ahead to the match this weekend, which is an absolutely massive one for these Springboks for a whole host of reasons, but you feel their opportunity to defend their Rugby Championship title is massively on the line here. So what do you make of not only the team news, but what do you make of where the Springboks currently find themselves? I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into the team selection. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Alfie, and I, as ever, appreciate you clicking on the video. Give me your views in the comments. I would love it as well if you like the video. And even more than that, if you were to subscribe to the channel, that's something that I always appreciate. Now, look, I am really struggling to get my head around where I feel the Springboks are at the moment at this point in 2025, because I think if you look at the three performances in the Rugby Championship this year, has been way below the levels you would expect of the Springboks. And so there's part of me that is looking at this team and thinking, are they heading through a real down phase in between World Cups? And don't forget, progression is never linear. You go up and down, you have these moments. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So is that what is happening to this team at the moment? Or have they just had a couple of bad games and you look at this team and you look at the team that's selected and they're more than capable of beating the All Blacks this weekend? And if they were to do that in New Zealand, you might look at things and think, well, do you know what? Given that they haven't been playing that well, they still find themselves in a really, really healthy position. So where are you with it? Springbok fans, I'm really intrigued as to what you make of your team at the moment. And there is a real feel, I think, from this team of a bit of a new era. I think you look at some of the changes that have been made. I think we are probably going to start to see the transition in some positions in this team towards the future. But actually, maybe, upon reflection, this isn't as drastic a change as some people might immediately think. And I've just been listening to Rassie Erasmus's press conference, and he spoke about the feeling after the defeat at Eden Park being similar to the feeling after the pool game against Ireland in the Rugby World Cup, which to me speaks to evolution rather than revolution. Slight adjustments to put them back on the correct path rather than being a point in the timeline of this team where you have to rip it all up, where it is a total refresh and a reset. And I'm still trying to work out exactly where I think this Springbok team are. I think we'll probably have a better idea of that after the weekend coming up at the moment. So a number of changes from Erasmus. I'll run through the team, 7 changes in total. And I think there's probably been a couple more off the back of that performance, but I don't think it's necessarily as knee-jerk a reaction in terms of selection as I originally thought. When I first looked at the team, I was thinking, you know, this is a pretty big statement. We see the Springboks rotate. We see big name, frontline, class, proven international players like an Ebenezer, for example, drop out of teams and sometimes get rotated. And I think that is still a part of the selection here. Yes, of course, I think it's influenced by that first game against New Zealand, but I don't necessarily think that it is the be-all and end-all. I don't think it's necessarily the end of the road for some players. I don't think, but we'll wait and see. So let's talk through the team and let's talk through some of the interesting selections from a South African point of view. Starting in the front row, Oxenchae, Malcolm Marx, Thomas du Toit get their opportunity once again. And actually, I think of all the questions around this team at the moment, and I think there are quite a few, I don't necessarily think the front row is too many of them, particularly not with those 3 guys. You could possibly talk about some of the replacements and who's going to be the kind of bomb squad, who's going to be the game-changing, semi-final altering replacements in the front row that we've seen in previous editions of the Springboks. But I actually think the front row have been going okay, purely in terms of the scrum. So Oxenchae, Malcolm Marx, Thomas du Toit, I don't have too many concerns about. Into the second row, so no Ebenezer is always going to be an eyebrow raiser. What is he? One of the most capped Springboks of all time. Unbelievable world-class operator on such a consistent basis. He's not there, so Lud de Jager and Ruan Nortje into the second row together, which is a classy second row combination. Siya Kolisi shifts from 8 to 6. And this is probably my first really big question selection-wise when I look at this squad. What's Siya Kolisi's position in this team moving forward? Double World Cup winning captain, undeniable legend. Are we starting to get to the point where you could see him not necessarily being the captain? He is the captain here, but what does his future look like? I think he's on 96 caps, or he's going to make his 96th cap this weekend. He will get to 100 caps. I just wonder whether we might start to see things just shift there. I think we'll probably still see him involved for a long time, probably still see him involved at the next World Cup, but that's certainly something for me where there's a question mark over. Pieter-Steph du Toit is also there in the 7 jersey. Now, he is a guy that I think has so much credit in the bank, but I don't think we've seen the best of him, certainly so far this year. I think he has looked below his best. Pieter-Steph at his best is a generational back row talent. He has been so key for the Springboks. I don't think we have seen that this year, but he gets another go once again. And Jasper Wiese comes back in at number 8, which I think they've missed him. I think they've really missed having a specialist number 8. I don't think kind of what they've done with Kolisi playing there and other combinations has necessarily worked. So Wiese comes back in, such a good player. Into the back line, Cobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu. So changes in the halfbacks. I really felt like before, or probably not even before the weekend, I felt for a long time that when it boils down to it, South Africa named Pollard at 10 when it comes down to the crunch games and the tough games. And he didn't have his best game at the weekend. He wasn't the only one, but that is undeniable that Andre Pollard, for all the brilliant stuff he has done in a Springboks jersey, didn't have his best game. Is the future at 10, Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu. Such an exciting young player, burst onto the scene internationally last year, starts this match away in New Zealand. And I do think a big part of this selection, when you look at Sasha, when you look at Ethan Hooker, when you look at Fassi, I think there are players that Rassie wants to experience a tough away game in New Zealand. I think there is a part of it of getting guys into the team to give them these experiences. So in 2 years' time at the World Cup, they are ready to deal with all the pressure that knockout rugby and that sort of environment comes with. And I think he is one of them. What's the future of the 10 jersey for South Africa? We'll wait and see. I think it's pretty intriguing. Damian Willemse at 12. When was the last time he played 12 for South Africa? I could be totally wrong here. Maybe I'm forgetting a game more recently. It feels like a long time for me. So the centre combination I think is fascinating with Willemse and Kane and Moody. I suppose you've always got the ever-reliable Dialende and Creel to fall back on. Ethan Hooker at 11 gets his opportunity starting on the wing. Really excited for him. Really excited to see how he goes in that position. Has had a brilliant season domestically, so he gets a shot. Cheslin Colby, who is just always ever-reliable. And Apalele Fassi comes back in at fullback. Willie Leroux had bit of a stinker in that match. Again, he wasn't the only one that didn't have his best game, but that is your starting 15. Marnus van der Merwe, Jan Hendrik Wessels and Wilco Louw, the front row replacements. R.G. Snyman and Quagga Smith. 5-3 once again. I feel like, what's going on with the Springboks? We're seeing them go 5-3 more and more this year with Grant Williams, Marnie Libbok and Andre Esterhazen as your replacements. Funny thing with the Springboks, that is a matchday 23 that is capable of going to New Zealand and winning. But I think the performances so far this Rugby Championship certainly, but so far this year have been a little bit alarming. But maybe we are in a position of evolution rather than revolution. Let's see how they get on this weekend. What do you make of the team? What are the big questions that you look at when you look at those names that have been selected? And what do you make of where this team is? Do you have more serious concerns about where they are in their development, or nothing to worry about? This is just naturally a part of a team's progression, which, as I said at the start of the video, isn't linear. Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video as well. Hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate you watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.